haven't joined us, I would like everyone to maybe just be able to say hello and where they're from. Let's pick on Lori because I know Lori.
Hi all, I'm Lori Lehman from Strengthening Rural Families. We have programs that serve the rural parts of the county, primarily in Philomath and LC. We do have a preschool in Mill City that we provide programming for. And hello.
Awesome. Welcome, Lori. Let's go with Kathy next.
I am Kathy Adair. I'm with the ALC community effort, and what we do is support our local community with regards to emergency response issues, with just supporting our community at large and our school and various businesses to help make sure that our people are well taken care of and our infrastructure is strong. So, hi.
Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Gregory, and I'm the program supervisor at CASA Voices for Children, and we help serve children within the child welfare system, so kids that have an open legal DHS case, are involved in foster care, or are at home with their parents and just need some extra help.
Awesome. I don't know. I can either keep calling on people or people can just volunteer to go, however y'all would like.
I like it when you call people out. It keeps them sharp.
Oh, okay. Well, then Lisa.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Lisa Kaufman. I work with Brittany at the Benton Community Foundation. I'm the director of philanthropic gifts, and I'm new to BCF. So I begged Brittany to let me join her little workshop today because I really love hearing about all the nonprofits and all you guys do to support our community. I used to run a nonprofit for 12 years before I got the job here at BCF. So welcome everyone. It's so nice to see you and learn more about your organizations.
Kursa, right? Kusra, did I say that right?
Yeah,
No?
Kusra. Yeah,
There we go.
Perfect. I'm with Old Mill Center for Children and Families, and we have 6 programs, and we serve ages 0 to 18 kids and their families. And our programs span from occupational therapy to mental health services to healthy families and the relief nursery in Corvallis and Monroe, and a community preschool, as well as an intensive treatment services unit. So we have a pretty full presence here in Corvallis, but we also have extended into Albany and Lynn County. So thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome, welcome. I'm just kind of going around the circle here. Jane Tappan.
Hi, Jane Tappan. I'm a board member with Kings Valley Community Trust. We acquire and protect public facilities and lands to serve our rural community. In 2013, we purchased our rural school to ensure it would stay open to serve our population. And right now we're looking to acquire a 155-acre nature preserve that's right next to the school.
Awesome. Jan. Oh, you're on mute here. I can maybe unmute you here.
Okay.
There we go.
You can see I have a professional demeanor. I couldn't figure out how to get on. I muted myself. I'm a volunteer with Philomath Community Services. I've just now become acquainted with them, and with Kate Sundstrom, I am starting to learn how to write grants. And we have 4 different agencies under one roof, so we feel like we serve a lot of people, and I'm so new to it that I'm just going to have to kind of stop there.
That's all right. Wonderful. Eliza.
Good.
Hi, my name is Eliza. I'm a volunteer with the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition, and I work on the It's On Us Corvallis project. And we are creating a kind of trying to create a trauma-informed food security program for Corvallis and larger Benton County. So we're excited to expand this year.
Awesome.
Thanks.
LaDonna.
Hi, I'm LaDonna Martin. I'm with Bev Northwest, and I'm their resource development coordinator. And we work in Benton County and Lynn County, other counties in Oregon as well, but we support thriving communities through affordable housing and financial capability. Thanks.
Wonderful. For those of you that are just joining us, we're just kind of going through and introducing each other. Erica, why don't you go next?
Hello. I've enjoyed hearing what everybody's organizations do. It's really neat to see all the stuff that's going on in the community. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
We can hear you, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, thanks. So my name's Erica and I'm here with Chintamani Wildlife Center. So our services are a little bit different than kind of all of the other ones that are.
We lost you.
Oh, we just lost her.
Provide education to people of all backgrounds in all of the areas surrounding Benton County and including Benton County.
Awesome. Okay, now my list got out of order. Jane Barth, please.
So Jane Barth, and I'm on the board of Unity Shelter, which runs the men's shelter and the women's shelter called Room at the Inn, and our transitional housing program with micro shelters at 5 locations around the community, which we call Safe Place. And then we also are involved at 3rd Street Commons, which is in South Corvallis in partnership with Corvallis Housing First to, again, provide transitional housing.
Wonderful. Jessica McDonald.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you. So many people I've also known. And just want to say, like, the women are rocking it on this fundraising world. All of you. Yeah, so I am, well, the hat that I usually am wearing is Greenbelt Land Trust Executive Director. And I'm also here as a liaison and representative of the Confluence, which is a collaboration of several organizations. Our home will be that beautiful building going up next to Rob Netz in the toy store. So a couple different hats wearing it, as all of us do. And I'll pass it over to the next person.
Awesome, wonderful. Glenda, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm Glenda Monstrin, Development Director here at ABC House. ABC House is a children's advocacy center, and we provide child abuse assessments, services, and support services for between 700 and 800 infants, children, and youth each year. We also provide community education on child abuse prevention, and we serve about 3,000 people with our prevention education, which is completely free.
Jessica Swarman Moore. Sorry. Wow.
Okay, no one knows how to say it.
Yeah, you would think I would.
I'm with Community Outreach Inc. We provide shelter for men, women, and families with children who are experiencing homelessness. And we also have medical and dental care and behavioral health services, as well as a community food pantry. And we also have an affordable child care center for low-income families.
Welcome. Dorothy.
Yes, I'm from Quilts from Caring Hands, and we give quilts to many of the people who are here also. And we're 100% volunteer organization.
Awesome. Eileen.
Hi, I'm Eileen McClelland, and I'm the director at Vina Moses Center. And we are basically a free thrift store that has seasonal programs. And also we provide emergency financial assistance for people who need help with basic needs.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I am really glad to see you guys and talk to you today. Did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, so my name is Brittany. Like I said, I am with the Benton Community Foundation, here to talk to you about our our funding cycle for this year. I will also kind of go through some other things about the foundation. In share screen mode, I can't really see you. So if you have a question, either drop it in the chat and someone can interrupt me or we'll figure it out. But you are welcome to ask questions as we go. Let's get started. Oh, come on. Okay, now it's going to be all funky. See, this is what happens when I get all prepared. It gets all weird.
Just working backwards, it's fine.
Yeah, it's just a little preview.
Just a little
It's fine.
Monday.
Yeah, it's a big Monday. Okay, so we're going to do an overview. I'm going to talk about the 2021 grant cycle and what happened there, go through the process for this year, and then do an application and portal walkthrough. So, and like I said, ask questions at any time.
Feel free to put them in the chat, and if we don't answer them right away, we'll have time at the end.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted you all to meet our team. We've been on Zoom for most things and you don't really get to meet us anymore. So Chris Quacca is the president and CEO. Stephen Moore is our wonderful operations manager and sadly will be leaving us at the end of the month. Lisa is on the Zoom with us. She is our director of philanthropic gifts. I'm Brittany, the director of grants and programs, and then Bob Longo is our finance manager. And that is the entire team here at BCF other than our board of directors. All right, so we are your local community foundation. We were started in 1953 by a group of Rotarians, and our focus has always been on creating a brighter future for children. We have an endowment, which houses our community grants funds. Our endowment is just over $31 million right now. And each of our, the grant funds is composed of a bunch of different funds from donors who have very specific interests. We provide scholarship, nonprofit grants, obviously that's what you all are here for, and then community initiative funding. Our community grant funding is leveraged not only with our endowment, but also with our donor advised funds, special initiatives, and our partners in philanthropy program, which is a very specific list of donors that we target and send out different needs in the community, including our community grants. Last year, so overall, the foundation sent out over $1.1 million to our community through a variety of programs, including community grants. We sent $130,000 specifically for the community grants program to 24 different nonprofits. We were really fortunate that the Rotary increased our funding by $30,000. And so we were able to leverage that and send out even more into the community. We had 46 organizations that applied. And like I said, 24 received grants, which it was super helpful to have that Rotary match. We were really able to leverage our funding even further. All right. So of that $130,000 that went out, 44% of it was in our investing in youth category, 36% in basic needs, and 8% in arts and culture, and 8% in science, technology, and the environment, and then 4% to this very specific category we have called the Elizabeth Starker Cameron Memorial Grant. I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of those priority areas here in a bit. This is pretty typical for what happens each year. Each of our categories center around how donors have told us that they would like their funds to be given out into the community. And basic needs and investing in youth is not only our largest application pool, but also the largest funding source that we have is for each of those priority areas. All right, so for 2022, we have over $103,000 to send out into the community this year. Our priority areas haven't changed. We'll go through those specifically here in a second. And then neither has the amount of funding. So we have two funding levels, $5,000 and under and $5,001 to $10,000. The cap is $10,000 for all of our funding sources. And then as applicants, you need to choose which one of those you want to be in and also which priority area you would like to focus on. Okay, so priority areas, arts and culture, basic needs, investing in youth, science, technology, and the environment, and then the very specific Elizabeth Starker Cameron Memorial Grant. So The memorial grant for the Elizabeth Starker Fund is $5,600 and specifically only for a project that promotes voting and citizenship responsibilities. Very few people actually are, that's not really their wheelhouse. So we'll talk about the other ones more in depthly. Investing in youth and basic needs, like I said, are our largest. That's where most of our donors have put their funding. Those cover a wide variety of things. So investing in youth typically and historically has covered summer programs, after school programs, curriculum. It's also covered staffing for those programs. So I should mention that BCF, while it's not a priority area, it does fund capacity and capital building projects. You just have to also fit it into one of our priority areas. So like I said, staffing, playground upgrades, a wide variety of things, and investing in youth. Same with basic needs. Your traditional housing, food, clothing, utility assistance, all of those, of course, are basic needs. But so is staffing and case management and supplies for your organization. We've had people ask for stairs and a washer and dryer or storage equipment for their organization. All of those, if you can tell me why that fits in your basic needs, is also acceptable. Arts and culture, once again, wide variety of things. Arts and summer programs in rural communities. It's also music for an underserved population. Farmers market staffing has been under arts and culture with us. And then same thing with science, technology, and the environment. We get a lot of STEM type projects in after school or in summer program, scholarships for those programming, but a wide variety of things could fit in the science, technology, and the environment category also. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk to you privately about that. You can only pick one priority area, but I'm happy to walk through which one might be best for you. All right. So all of our grants are housed in an online portal. I'm going to walk you through how to create an account. If you have applied for grants previously, your account is still active, and so you should be able to log back in and just start the application process. However, if you lost your username or like me and you can't remember another password, I am happy to reset the password or give you your username, but you should be able to log back in. I'm going to go through how to create an account in case we have anybody new. All right, so on our homepage, the first step would be to, if you're new, to create a new account, you just click create new account, and it's gonna walk you through a whole series of questions, including, name, title, address, phone number, all of that good stuff. Your email is particularly important because that will be your username going forward. That's also how we communicate with you about everything related to grants. So whether you received a grant, whether you didn't receive a grant, whether your application is still in draft, everything gets sent to that email. It's going to ask you some more questions about your executive officer. So if you are not the executive officer, you would click no and enter some more information about who that is. If you're an all volunteer organization and you don't think you have one, please let me know and we'll talk about who you should put there. But for the most part, it should be, your executive director. It's going to also ask you for a password, and then it'll, like I said, click you through and you'll click next and you'll have your account all created. The application. So our application is significantly different this year than it has been in previous years. I hope it's easier. I hope it's more user-friendly. We tried to change our questions to align more closely with what OCF is doing, but it is definitely different than it has been in previous years. So it's broken down into sections: project information, fiscal sponsorship, population served, narrative, and financial information. I'm going to go through all of them except for the fiscal sponsorship part, because unless you need one of those. You don't need to know about that information. So we fund 501c3s, units of government, schools, and religious organizations. If you don't fall into that category, you will need a fiscal sponsor, which does fall into those categories. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer it, but I'm pretty sure everybody on the list already falls into those categories. So let's dive into the application. All right, so the first part is project information. And these 2 questions are very important. This is what we share with our donors. We give this information to our PALs, to our donor advised funds, all of this. So it needs to be answered pretty concisely because they get large packets of information. They would get this information from 46 different people. So answer it, clearly and concisely. This is your chance to tell not only our reviewers up front, but also our donors who you are, what you do, and who you serve. So I've provided some examples throughout the application on what that might look like. So for the 2-sentence description, we really do only want 2 sentences and your top priorities and who and where you're serving. And of course, how you'll be using our funds. Okay, hold on. This is also new. This is a checkbox area. You're going to check everywhere you provide services. So if you are very specific to only Philomath, you would click just Philomath. If you're a county-wide organization, you're gonna click everywhere you serve. Same thing with the demographics. We want to know the who you're serving. So click everything that applies to your organization. And then after that, you're gonna provide us some more details. So
I see Lori has a question. Her hand is up really quick.
Yes.
Britt.
Okay, I can't see that. So go ahead.
That's okay.
Sorry. Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Lehman here. So do you want to know who we serve that we're asking this funding for?
No, I want to know who you serve as an organization.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Sure.
We donate all of our quilts to about 17 different agencies. We are not exactly sure where they all go. They go to anybody and everybody who those agencies serve.
Yeah, so that would be a little more difficult for you. And I understand, with your organization, it is a little harder to choose. Do your best. You serve, I would say, pretty much the whole county. So make sure you just click all of the, the cities in the county. You can put other in county too if you think that it's not on the list. For
the demographics, I mean, it's everybody. I don't think any of the agencies we serve are prejudiced in that.
Right. No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, so it's.
Let's talk a little more about this afterwards or at a different time, because I think we're trying to just kind of track who we're sending money to, so we can make a kind of an educated decision for you and your organization based on who you send that to. I think it would be a pretty wide variety on this list.
Right. Okay, thanks.
All right, so then we're going to want some more details in the next 2 questions about the people and populations you serve. So this is where you get to expand and tell us more specifically the number of people served. So we want specific data sets, like I'm going to use, since I used to work in Adair Village and run a youth program out there, I'm going to use that as my example through all of this. So you're going to tell us, I would say something like, I serve 35 kids in Adair Village, and then break those numbers down. Of those kids, 5 of them are 15 to 18, 5 are 10 to 14, and then also by the demographics. If I knew low income information, I would put that in here. And then also how your board and staff and volunteers reflect the community you serve. So in this example, I would say, because we were a unit of government, I would say, well, our city council is comprised of members of the community, and some of those are parents. I also have teens who volunteer in the youth program and help me plan our activities. That's the kind of information we want there. All right, so, and then we're gonna go through the narrative. Some of these questions are the same, some of them are different. The mission vision statement, we want to know what is important to your organization, but we specifically also want to know how the goals of the project that you're writing for are consistent with the mission of your organization. Equity, diversity, inclusion. We want to know how your organization defines and puts that into practice. Accomplishment, we want to know what you've been doing good. We want to know more about you. And we know all of our nonprofits here in Benton County work really hard and do some amazing things. And we want, this is kind of your time to brag a little bit on what you've been doing. All right, the next section is your unique community need. So this is where you're going to tell us why this project is important and what need it's addressing. We also, once again, want some numbers included in this, so some data to tell us how this is a need. The success of the program. So this is, we kind of stripped back, you know, for those of you who have applied before, we used to have like this huge chart, right? And we stripped all of that back. So we don't necessarily want things in chart format, but we still do want to know what the goals are and what the outcome is. So the success of the program is where you're going to tell us what the outcome of the project looks like and how the community you serve is going to be better because of this project. Staff and community support. This can be a lot of things. So we want to know your staff and volunteers are on board with this project. We also want to know how the community is supporting it. And that could be in terms of partnerships with other nonprofits or governmental agencies. It could be financial support from other nonprofits or other funding sources, or your donors have gotten on board and you have a huge donation for this program. Stuff like that shows how the staff and community are in support of this project. Okay. Financial information. This is never fun. We did try to strip back some of this information. We used to ask you to upload additional documents. We're not asking anyone to do that this year. Everything that we need for your organization and your financials is in this grant application. So there isn't anything else that we would ask you for, short of if in your GuideStar and your charity check profile, there isn't a current 990, I might ask you for that separately. But otherwise, everything you need for your financial information will be in this document. So I switched from just showing you the questions to now kind of trying to do an example for you. The fiscal year is whatever your fiscal year is. In this example, it's July 1 to June 30th. It could be on the calendar year, whatever your organization has decided. You're going to tell us your total budget for your organization, your total annual budget for the program, project, or whatever you're writing for, and then the amount requested for BCF. Okay. Now I'm going to switch back to just the questions because this is how it rolls today. So the next thing we're going to ask you about is your current financials, your budgeted financials for the upcoming fiscal year. So this is where we don't want a lot of detail, just total numbers, organization revenue, organization expenses, and then if you're operating budgeted, operating in a surplus. Actuals to date, same thing, overall numbers. If you're on a calendar year, you might not have a lot of actuals to date, and that's okay. We totally understand that, but it's total numbers for the organization, not the project, okay? Both of these total numbers for the organization. Same thing for actuals for last completed fiscal year, organizational actuals, revenues, expenses, deficit. It is helpful if you could put the year in there like the example shows. That way I can know what your fiscal year is and kind of check that. Any questions so far before I go into some more detail on some financials? Okay. So we do ask a little bit about your matching funds. So we want to know secured or proposed sources of funding, and that can include your general operating funds, anything from fundraising, donations, dues if you have them, program fees, grant funds, all of that good stuff. So in the example, you'll see that they had secured funding of $10,000 from a fundraiser, $5,000 was budgeted from the general operating fund, and then $5,000 from grant funding. You don't have to tell me who the other funding sources are for the grant funding. That's fine. And then proposed funding of $5,000. So proposed obviously is anything that you are hoping that might come in, anything that you've already written for, anything that you plan to write for would be in that proposed funding. Okay, back to some more examples. So after we go over your overall organizational finances, we're going to talk a little bit more about specifics for this project or program. So a couple slides ago, I said that the whole project was $25,000 and I was asking $10,000 from BCF. So for salaries, I have $16,000 that is the total amount needed. $8,000 is BCF supported. There's $2,000 in contracted services. None of that is being supported by BCF grant dollars. Supplies and equipment are $7,000 total. $2,000 of that is being supported by BCF. And then no advertising or other expenses. All of those numbers add up to total expenses of $25,000 for the project and $10,000 supported by BCF. It will not auto-calculate, so you have to put that information in yourself, but make sure that it does match. The reviewers will be looking that your expenses that you detail match the request from BCF. Same thing with your total expenses for the project. They will be looking that that equals to the amount that you set on that first page.
Brittany, we have a question from Jessica. She says, is there a specific grant match percentage that is required?
There's not. We don't have a very, a specific, we do want to see that you have matching funds, but it doesn't have to be, the 5% or the 10% that some of the other organizations ask for.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. After you have told us where you're going to be spending the money, you're going to provide us with some more details on what that is. So if you don't have any contracted services here, I would have just said NA because I am not asking BCF to provide any money for our contracted services. I would detail that this for the salary that it was for a half-time position and that that person would be doing whatever they're doing in accordance, and make sure that the person that you're asking for is, part of the project, that kind of stuff. Supplies and equipment, I would be telling you in this example that I'm asking for field trip admission for 35 people and probably some transportation costs and some meals because I was running a youth program, right? And any other expenses that you might have that you are writing for BCF dollars. If any of these do not apply, you can just put NA because sometimes you're not asking for anything from BCF for salary. That's fine. Just whatever it is that you were detailing on the expense sheet should be talked about here in this section. Okay. So what are our reviewers looking for? Well, we have not only overhauled a lot of our application, but we've also overhauled our scoring matrix. So we have tried to simplify it and make sure that everything we are asking them to score is directly related to some questions that we're asking. So for budget and financial information, please make sure that it's complete. They are going to look that you have matching funding. It doesn't have to be a specific amount, but that you do have some other sources of funding, including donations. So like in-kind donations is matching funding. Demonstrates how the project is funded and specifically how BCF grant funding will be used. Population served. It's really important that you provide us some actual hard numbers on who you're serving and the number of people served. That is something that I know our reviewers constantly look for. Same thing with community impact. They really want to know numbers and that this is going to be serving a specific number of people. Goals are consistent with your mission of your organization. So if the project and the goals don't really align with what you tell me your mission is, that's going to be something the reviewers notice. Not on here, but something that we've done this year is that there's going to be 2 other additional ways that the reviewers can score. One is overall impression of the grant. So the technical writing, the how it's complete, it's clear, that kind of thing is going to be a section for them to score, as well as a kind of subjective question of, would I recommend full funding for this project? Would be a 3 on our scale, which is the highest. A 2 would be, I would recommend funding if funds were available, would be a 2, and then 1 would be, I do not recommend funding. So that's kind of a subjective way that we're asking our reviewers to give you guys some points. Those 2 categories are for me to also provide you feedback at the end. If you come to me and ask me, how did I do? I can then tell you some of those feedbacks. I'm also asking them to specifically write comments, and hopefully they will. There's a comment section on the review sheet for them to give you guys feedback so that we can give that if you ask. So, all right, questions.
Okay, there was an earlier question in the chat from Katie. She said, I would like to have that conversation as well. Our organization serves every child who qualifies. This is not based on race, ethnicity, or other factors listed.
Okay, Katie, do you take demographics? Do you have some of that information?
We do, but it just varies year by year, so it's hard to predict is the only thing. Should we just do it based on last year's?
Yeah, I would do it based on last year's.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say that's a good point. If your demographics have changed over time because of COVID or anything else that's happening in our world, using 2021 as an example is a pretty good moment in time to capture, even if historically your organization 10 years ago served a whole different population. COVID has changed so much for all of us that I would just use 2021 as a baseline. Would you agree, Brittany?
Yeah, I think that would be perfectly acceptable. There's another question about reporting requirements. I am trying very hard to change that and change what we require of our nonprofits for reporting. I haven't got it all the way figured out yet. So I don't have anything to specifically tell you for this upcoming year. Previously, we've asked you to fill out a 2-page impact report. It's pretty simple. You can send pictures if you want. That might be changing. I hope it's changing, but I don't know yet.
There's a question from Jane in the chat. Is a request for funding to help with acquisition of land and eligible project as long as it fits within one of the priority areas?
I would say yes. To me, that's kind of a capacity and capital. I know you guys, it's not necessarily completely for you guys, but it would be something I think we would do. It would definitely have to fit in very clearly one of those priority areas.
So question, you don't cover things like rent, right?
Not typically. Well, it's not something we're typically asked for. We're more asked for project specific funding. It's not to say that we wouldn't cover rent as part of a grant request. It would just have to fit into one of those priority areas.
Okay.
Or for example, Dorothy, if you had to rent out a space to run the project for 6 months and pay that rental fee, then that would just fall within like the program outcomes that you wanted for the program and the cost of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Brittany? she is your guru. So do not pass up a chance to ask her now. Although she is very kind to be available to each of you who have questions as you go through the process. And we'll go ahead and email this link to all of you as well, so you can watch it back as you're going through the application process through the online portal step by step. I think that will be helpful. And of course, like I said, I'm putting Brittany out there that she's available for you.
I'm always available. I was trying to get some dates. So the applications close March 15th. They're open until then. I think it's 5 p.m. Make sure that you maybe get it in earlier than that because it slows down quite a bit. And then here's my contact information. Like I said, you are welcome to email me or call. Email is usually the easiest way to get a hold of me initially, and then we can schedule a call should you have any other questions or concerns.
Brittany, this is less of a, I guess, grant writing question, but more of, I guess, a programmatic question on with applications that come in that you're unable to fund, or maybe you had to bring them down because you couldn't fully fund them. Do you also workshop those to donor advised fund donors, or what does that look like?
We do. So we, since Lisa's joined our team, have been trying to overhaul that program too. So our plan is to, before we even send them to the reviewers, to send out a synopsis of all the applications received to donor advised and that PALS list so that they can fund anything before if they want to. And then once we've done our initial round of funding, whatever is left, we will send back out to them so they can get another look and see if there's something that maybe now strikes their fancy or maybe their situation has changed. Yeah.
Thank you.
I do have one other question. Okay, so I'm from Quilts from Caring Hands, and previously Jan Tallis was the grant writer, but she's not going to do it anymore. So we are registered, but if we had a password, of course, I don't have it. So how do you want to deal with that? Should I just?
I will reset you a password, something very generic, and email it to you. And then you should be able, and I will include what the username used to be, and then you should be able to log in with that information.
Okay, and we don't have a executor or something like that either. Do you just want the original?
You would put who is in charge. So it'd probably be you if you're going to be the one responsible for grant reporting and any of the grant documents, that you can put your information, or the president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm totally new to this. Actually, I have two questions. Who are the reviewers?
Okay, has everyone got my contact information? And I'll stop sharing so I can actually see your guys' faces.
Yeah, you're good.
It's easier for when I can actually see you. Our reviewers are community members. So we have volunteers who review our grants and our scholarships for us. So there's subcommittees, there's at least 2 on the subcommittee, and they review the grants, and then they meet and talk as a whole huge group. So little subcommittees meet, make their recommendations to me. The whole huge subcommittee gets together and talks about their favorites, and then we assign funding from there. We do have some very specific funding for rural Benton County, so that usually gets funded first out of a different pot, and then we kind of go from there on what's available.
And my second question is Philomath Community Services just got a full-time director in the last 18 months, Kate.
Right.
Can you act, I mean, is it detrimental, I guess I'm going to say, if she's overwhelmed to actually begin the process with somebody other than her because she is the executive director, or that doesn't matter?
That shouldn't matter. I mean, as long as you guys are sharing the contact information or the login information among yourselves, somebody else could start it, and then somebody else could go in and proofread it or finish it, or you can save the application at any time. There is the option to save and then come back.
Oh, and then you could at that point in time review it, and then it could be as she had done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jan. I mean, if you can try to get as many eyes on your completed application as you can, pass it around to maybe a couple different members of your board or your team to get everyone to proofread or cross-check your numbers. And that's the great thing about the portal, is that you can start, save, stop, come back, get anybody else to go in there and take a look at it, so that you can have your own check and balance system before you hit that submit button.
Well, it just seems reasonable because with us, when you have 3 or 4 different agencies under one roof, everybody has kind of a different spin on that.
That can be a challenge, yeah.
Well, I mean, because I'm so new, that just makes sense to me because you would need input from various sources.
Yeah. And PCS is kind of a unique situation because they do house so many different organizations under one name. And so it would really depend on if you were writing for the whole organization or maybe June Kids Closet or one of the other programs. So I think Kate having an eye on it at the end is probably a really good idea.
I think her having an eye on it all the way through is a
Yeah.
good, but I know that her workload is pretty tremendous. And since I'm just starting, I thought if I could do some of that groundwork and then, then basically send it backwards to the people who actually know, maybe it would just, help facilitate it.
Yeah, I think that has happened with PCS quite frequently. I think there's been more than one person that's helped with that process.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have one more question in the chat from
Okay.
Eliza. Does BCF tend to fund capacity building, staffing, and or programming basic needs expenses?
So we do both. There isn't a set dollar aside for either one. It really depends on the request. In the basic needs category, sometimes it is harder for reviewers to separate themselves and say, like if we have a funding for food, right? They're oftentimes more likely to fund people who need food than maybe a staff. I think we're shifting our perspective as an organization and we're training our reviewers a little bit better on how important staffing is, because without staff, nobody gets food, so I don't think there's a preference either way.
All right, does anybody have a last question? We're going to wrap you guys up about 10 minutes early here, unless there's any other questions that you ladies have. Okay.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
you
Thank
have
you to
my
Brittany. She put all this together today, and she is your guru for all of your questions in the future. We'll email you the link and anything else you need from us.
And you're welcome to contact me at any time. I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye all.
Thank you. Bye.